Dreadites. The human mind has a way of blocking out trauma. We build walls around the memories we can't face, and we find ways to justify our actions. The reason I'm saying all this is because someone has to know what the stream is, and how it destroys everything it touches. My monitor cast a blue glow across my desk as I sorted through the day's spam folder. The office had cleared out hours ago, but I always stayed late on Fridays. The quiet helped me focus. A single unread message caught my eye. No subject line, no sender name, just an attachment named stream.txt. I should have deleted it. Every IT security training I'd ever conducted warned against opening anonymous attachments, but something about the simplicity of it pulled at me. The file contained a single line, an onion address and a private key. The dark web wasn't new to me. I'd spent enough time exploring its corners to know the basics of staying safe. My cursor hovered over the address. A bead of sweat rolled down my neck despite the office air conditioning running full blast. The page loaded to reveal a minimalist interface in stark white text against black. A video player dominated the center, surrounded by scrolling chat messages and what looked like betting odds. A figure sat in a dimly lit room, solving what appeared to be a complex puzzle box. "Welcome, Observer 512, flashed across my screen. The chat erupted. "Fresh meat," typed someone named Observer Prime. Another one for the milestone, Observer 223 wrote. "Shh, you'll scare them off," Observer 167 replied. I leaned closer to my screen. The figure in the video, username David, worked with careful precision. His hands moved across the puzzle box's surface with practiced ease. Numbers scrolled past, indicating cryptocurrency transactions. Viewers placed bets on his next move. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Wendy lit up the screen. "Mom's worried about you. Call her." I dismissed the notification. The puzzle box in the stream made a satisfying click as another piece fell into place. David's shoulders relaxed. The chat exploded with reactions and payouts. My heart raced. I wanted to understand how it worked. A private message window popped up. Observer Prime again. "First time's free. Here's 50 tokens to get you started. Choose wisely." I glanced at my phone. 3 missed calls from Wendy. The sun had set hours ago, but I barely noticed. The stream pulled me in deeper. Another puzzle appeared on screen. The betting odds reset. My cursor moved toward the Place Bet button. I didn't know it then, but that simple click set everything in motion. By the time I understood what the stream really was, it would be far too late for my family. Far too late for me. The token sat in my account, waiting. David began work on the new puzzle. The chat buzzed with anticipation, and somewhere, in a room I couldn't see, the true game had already begun. I lost 3 weeks to the stream before I noticed anything wrong, before the first signs appeared. My initial 50 tokens turned into 500 through careful betting. The puzzle sequences grew more complex, but David never lost his composure. His hands remained steady even as sweat beaded on his forehead. The chat room became my constant companion. "He's getting closer," Observer Prime messaged me one night. The clock on my desk read 3 a.m. David's different from the others. He might make it to the milestone. A new puzzle appeared on screen. The box looked ancient, covered in symbols I'd never seen before. My tokens burned in my digital wallet. "What milestone?" I typed back. Observer Prime went silent. The chat exploded with activity as David's fingers traced the patterns. My phone vibrated. Another text from Wendy. I switched it to silent without reading the message. Red numbers flashed across the betting interface. The odds shifted with each move. My cursor moved on its own, placing larger and larger bets. David's shoulders tensed as he reached the final sequence. A knock at my apartment door made me jump. My coffee mug crashed to the floor. "Marcus," Wendy called through the door. "Your car's been in the lot for 5 days. Are you even going to work?" My eyes stayed fixed on the screen. David's hands trembled over the puzzle box. The chat held its collective breath. "I'm fine," I shouted back. "Just working from home. Mom's birthday dinner is tonight. You promised you'd come." My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten. The puzzle box made a grinding sound. David's face drained of color. The chat scroll moved so fast I could barely read it. "Something came up at work," I lied. "I'll make it up to her." Wendy's footsteps faded down the hallway. The puzzle box opened with a hollow click. Inside lay another box, smaller and darker. The chat erupted in a frenzy of payouts and predictions. My tokens had doubled again, but the numbers meant nothing. I needed to know what was in that second box. David's hands shook as he reached for it. A private message popped up from Observer 223. "You're almost ready." The chosen ones always show the same signs. The second box had no visible seams or markings. David's breathing grew ragged as he turned it over in his hands. The betting odds skyrocketed. Something about the box made my skin crawl. My phone lit up with a final message from Wendy. "We're worried about you. This isn't like you." She was right, but the old me didn't matter anymore. The stream had become everything. And as David began work on the second box, a strange symbol flashed across the screen, just for a fraction of a second. The police never did explain why Wendy's security system turned against her. Technology can malfunction in strange ways, they said. But I knew about malfunctions. I fixed them for a living. And what happened to my sister wasn't a malfunction. The stream chat scrolled past my eyes as Detective Moore stood in my doorway. His badge caught the light from my monitors. "Your sister tried to call you 6 times last night," Moore said. His notebook flipped open. "Did you speak with her?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. David had reached the final layer of the second box. My tokens were up to 2,000. "I was working," I mumbled. The detective's pen scratched against paper. The puzzle box on screen made a sound like breaking glass. David's face contorted. The chat exploded with activity. "Her security cameras activated at 3 a.m., Moore continued. "The system locked all exits. Then it..." His voice trailed off. A symbol flashed across my screen, the same one from before. My stomach lurched. The chat moved too fast to read. "Mr. Reed." Moore stepped closer. "We found this carved into her front door." He held up a photo. My blood turned to ice. The symbol from the stream stared back at me from my sister's door. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. Wendy's final message. I couldn't bring myself to play it. The puzzle box on screen began to glow. David's hands trembled as he made the final turn. My tokens automatically placed themselves on the highest odds. "The security company's logs were wiped," Moore added. "No signs of external hacking, just a symbol left in the code." The box clicked open. Inside lay a small screen displaying an address. The chat went silent. "Did Wendy mention anyone following her?" Moore asked. "Any strange messages?" I shook my head. My eyes stayed fixed on the address in David's box. My heart stopped. It was Wendy's house. The stream cut to static. When it returned, David was gone. A new countdown appeared. Milestone event, 7 days. "One more thing," Moore said. He placed a small evidence bag on my desk. "We found this by her computer." Inside lay a small black box. No seams, no markings, just like the one from the stream. My phone lit up with a private message from Observer Prime. Congratulations, you've been chosen. The detective's voice faded into background noise. The stream had my full attention, and somewhere in the chat, members were already placing bets on what would happen next. 6 days after Wendy's funeral, my mother missed our weekly dinner. The countdown on the stream read, 24 hours to milestone. A new contestant named Diana worked on a puzzle box. Her movements seemed familiar, the same careful precision I remembered from David. My father's voice crackled through my phone. The police found her car in the driveway, he said. The front door was wide open. Her phone, her purse, everything still inside. The chat scroll slowed. Observer Prime's message caught my eye. The chosen ones always lose what anchors them. I'm coming over, I told my father. My hand shook as I reached for my keys. Diana's puzzle box opened with a hollow click. Inside lay another screen with another address. My mother's house. The chat erupted with excitement. My father paced the kitchen when I arrived. His eyes were red, his shirt untucked. Coffee cups littered every surface. The security cameras, he muttered. They caught something. He pressed play on his laptop. The footage showed my mother's front step. A small black box sat on the welcome mat. The same type from Wendy's evidence bag. The same type from the stream. The police say it's connected to Wendy's case, my father said. His voice broke. That symbol was carved into the door frame. My phone buzzed. The stream notification pulled my attention away. Diana had disappeared from the video feed. A new countdown began. 12 hours to milestone. You're staying with me, I insisted. My father nodded, his shoulders slumped. The drive to my apartment passed in a blur. The stream chat filled with predictions. Bets placed themselves from my account without my input. My father took the spare room. I stayed glued to my monitors. The countdown reached 6 hours. A private message flashed. The final anchor falls at midnight. Sincerely, Observer Prime. My father's voice carried from the hallway. Marcus? Did you hear something? The stream's video feed crackled. Static filled the screen. There's someone in the kitchen, my father whispered. My eyes stayed locked on the static. Shapes moved in the white noise. A figure, a box, a symbol. The feed cleared. An empty room appeared. My kitchen. A black box sat on the counter. My father's door clicked shut. The stream's countdown hit 0. Milestone achieved flashed across my screen. Broadcast begins in 7 days. The chat celebrated. My tokens multiplied. And in the spare room, my father's bed lay empty. A familiar symbol carved into his pillow. My phone lit up one last time. Welcome, Broadcaster 512. Your inheritance awaits. The next day, Detective Moore spread 3 case folders across my kitchen table. Each contained a photo of the same symbol carved into different doors. Each family lost multiple members. Each investigation led nowhere. Your family wasn't the first, Moore said. His coffee grew cold beside him. It started 6 months ago with the Taylors. The stream's chat window blinked on my laptop. I turned the screen away from Moore. 3 family members in 2 weeks, he continued. The youngest son survived. He disappeared right after, abandoned his job, his apartment, everything. My fingers twitched toward the keyboard. Observer Prime had sent 4 messages since morning. Moore pulled out another file. The Whitakers came next. Mother and sister gone in 3 days. The brother stopped responding to our calls. A pattern emerged in my mind. The stream's chat filled with familiar usernames. Observer 223, Observer 167, Observer Prime. The numbers meant something. We found this in the Whitaker brothers' apartment, Moore said. He slid a photograph across the table. A desktop computer showed the stream's interface, a puzzle box, a betting screen, a chat log. The symbols in the code, I whispered. They match the carvings. Moore leaned forward. You've seen this before? The stream notification pinged. My new broadcaster status glowed red. I need to check something, I told Moore. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. The chat log scrolled to life. Observer 223, Taylor son. Observer 167, Whitaker brother. Each observer matched a survivor. These attacks, Moore said, they always target multiple family members, always leave one alive. My screen flickered. A private message appeared. You're putting it together, Broadcaster 512. Good. You'll need to understand before your first show. Sincerely, Observer Prime. The detective gathered his files. Call me if you remember anything about the symbol. The door closed behind him. My laptop displayed a new message. Time to meet the family. Your equipment arrives at midnight. I opened the earliest case file. The Taylor son's final police statement caught my eye. I didn't understand until I watched the recordings. By then, I had no choice. The stream's interface changed. A new section appeared. Broadcasting tools, a menu of options, a list of effects. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. A text message opened automatically. Check the archived footage. See what you missed. Signed Observer 223. The pieces clicked together. The stream didn't just show the puzzles, it showed everything. And somewhere in its archives, my family's final moments waited for me to find them. The stream's archive menu opened with a series of dates. Each one matched a family's disappearance. My fingers trembled over the keyboard. The first file name read, Taylor Session 001. The video loaded in fragments, breaking apart and reassembling. A living room appeared on screen. The same puzzle box from David's stream sat on a coffee table. Behind it, a painting hung on the wall, a familiar landscape. The image tore apart. Static filled my screen. Through the noise, shapes moved in the background. The chat replay scrolled past. Perfect placement. They never notice until it's too late. Observer 167 wrote. The box is just the beginning, Observer 223 replied. My own chat messages appeared in the log, bets I'd placed on David's progress, comments about his technique, all while the camera angle widened, revealing more of the room. The static cleared for a moment. Through broken pixels, I recognized my sister's kitchen. David sat at her table, the puzzle box between his hands. The timestamp matched the night she died. The security panel blinked in the background, and then the feed switched angles. I watched in horror as the security system's metal shutters sliced through the room like giant razor blades. The chat replay moved faster, viewers placing excited bets about dismemberment patterns. Amy's screams cut off abruptly as the feed switched back to David, his hands steady on the puzzle box, crimson droplets pattering against its surface. My heart stopped. A new file appeared. Read Session 001. You're seeing it, Observer Prime messaged me. What we all saw too late. The security system panel blinked in the background. Wendy walked past the camera. David's hands moved faster over the box. My old messages continued in the chat. Predictions about the puzzle's solution. Questions about the milestone. All while my sister moved through her final hours. The video stuttered. Wendy noticed the security panel's light. She reached for her phone. My message history showed 3 missed calls during those moments. "The boxes are keys," Observer 223 wrote in my private messages. "Each solution unlocks something else. Someone else." The archive listed more files. Mother Session 001, Father Session 001. Each thumbnail showed familiar rooms, familiar faces. My broadcasting equipment sat unopened by the door. A black box pulsed with a faint light. The stream's interface glitched one final time. The puzzle box on my kitchen counter began to hum. A new message appeared. "Your turn to place the pieces. Your turn to solve the puzzle. But this time, you're not the observer. You're the architect. Observer Prime." The archive closed itself. A new window opened. Broadcasting Manual, Page 1. Selecting your subjects. I watched them all, starting with the Taylors. My eyes burned from the screen's glow, but I couldn't stop. The first video showed a teenage boy solving a puzzle box. The chat log moved with familiar names: Observer Prime, Observer 167, Observer 223. Bets placed on his progress. His mother walked through the background, unaware. My fingers pressed against the desk. The next file showed the same house, different angle. The security system sparked, doors locked. The chat exploded with excitement. "Your technique was flawless," Observer Prime messaged me. "You never missed a moment of David's stream." The video jumped forward. The Taylor boy stared at his screen, placing bets. His sister screamed somewhere off camera. The chat filled with predictions. "We all watched our families," Observer 223 wrote. "The stream chose us for our attention to detail." My own archives came next. The footage showed Wendy's house from 6 different angles. David sat at her table, the puzzle box reflecting lamplight. My messages scrolled past, analysis of his technique, predictions of his moves. The security panel in Wendy's hallway blinked red. My past self typed, "His precision is incredible." "The boxes are conduits," Observer Prime explained. "Each solution opens a channel. Each channel claims a life." Mother's video played next. Diana worked on the puzzle while my mother made dinner. My bets appeared in the corner, thousands of tokens on each move. The kitchen lights flickered. My mother looked up. My messages continued. "Diana's getting close to the solution." "The stream picks survivors who pay attention," Observer 167 wrote. "The ones who watch every detail except the right ones." Father's footage began. The puzzle box on my counter pulsed in sync with the one on screen. My hands shook as I reached for it. "Your broadcast begins soon," Observer Prime messaged. "Your attention to detail made you perfect for this role." The final archive opened, a new angle, my apartment, my desk, my screens. A figure stood in my doorway, hands moving over a black box. "The stream doesn't just record," Observer 223 wrote. "It transforms. Look behind you." The puzzle box hummed. My reflection in the screen showed hollow eyes, curved lips. The same expression every observer shared in their profile pictures. A new file appeared. First broadcast guidelines. The stream had finished its work. Observer 512 was ready to begin. The broadcasting equipment arrived in a matte black case. No return address, no shipping label, just the familiar symbol etched into the metal. Each piece inside nested in custom-cut foam, waiting to be assembled. A manual slid from beneath the foam. Stream Broadcasting Protocols, version 5.1. The pages smelled like copper and ozone. "Setup requires precision," Observer Prime messaged. "The network demands perfect synchronization." My hands moved across each component. Cameras disguised as common objects, Picture frames, smoke detectors, wall outlets, each contain the same symbol carved into their circuitry. The boxes channel energy through the network, Observer 223 explained. Each solution creates a new connection. The manual opened to a diagram. Lines connected each broadcaster to their assigned viewers. More lines linked viewers to future targets. A perfect web of observation and participation. My phone lit up with coordinates, a house 3 blocks away, a family of 4. Their photos appeared on my screen with timestamps and predictions. Your first broadcast begins at midnight, Observer Prime wrote. The network has chosen your subjects. The puzzle box on my counter pulsed. Inside the case, a small screen displayed command protocols. Terms like exit sequence and processing duration lined the margins. Observer 167's message flashed. Remember your training. Remember what you learned from David's performance. My fingers traced the manual's pages. Installation instructions mixed with psychological profiles. Target selection criteria alongside equipment specifications. A technical guide to orchestrated tragedy. The stream adapts to each broadcaster, Observer Prime explained. It learns their style, their preferences. It becomes an extension of their desires. Commands scrolled across my screen. Camera positions, security system access codes, power grid override protocols. Everything needed to recreate what happened to Wendy, to my parents. The puzzle box opened with a click. Inside, a small black card pulsed with data. The manual called it a consciousness bridge. Insert the card, Observer 223 instructed. Complete the connection. My reflection in the box's surface showed empty eyes. The same eyes from the archive footage. The same eyes every broadcaster shared. A new message appeared. Network synchronization required. Begin installation sequence. The manual's final page displayed a single line. The stream flows through us all. We are its architects, its observers, its executioners. My hands reached for the first camera. The family's house waited in darkness, and somewhere in the stream's network, viewers placed their first bets on my performance. The stream's network stretched deeper than I imagined, its roots buried in the darkest corners of the internet. Each broadcaster connected to hundreds of viewers, each viewer linked to future targets. My screens filled with data as Observer Prime granted me full access. User logs stretched back 5 years, thousands of broadcasts, hundreds of transformed observers. The pattern repeats. Observer 223 messaged. Family connections make the strongest channels. The stream knows this. Lists of names scrolled past. Every observer username matched a missing person report. Every broadcaster connected to multiple family deaths. Your sister's broadcast drew record viewership, Observer Prime wrote. Your reactions in the chat showed promise. The network map expanded across my screen. Lines connected each broadcaster to their victims, each victim to new observers, each observer to future targets. A perfect cycle of trauma and transformation. My first target family appeared in the corner window. The cameras I'd installed showed empty rooms. The puzzle box waited on their kitchen counter. Previous broadcasts available, Observer 167 typed. Study their techniques. File names filled my screen. Taylor Broadcast 001. Whitaker Broadcast 001. Each video showed the same pattern. A family member solving the puzzle, viewers placing bets, security systems activating. The consciousness bridge card pulsed in its slot. My brain filled with protocols and procedures. The stream's knowledge flowed through the connection. Network synchronization at 80% flashed across my screen. Broadcast preparations complete. Observer Prime's message appeared. You understand why we chose you. Your attention to detail during David's performance. Your dedication to the stream. Your ability to watch without interference. The target family's youngest son entered the kitchen. His hand reached for the puzzle box. The stream demands perfect execution. Observer 223 wrote, no hesitation, no mercy. My fingers moved across the keyboard. Security system access codes, power grid controls, everything the stream had used against my family. The puzzle box opened. The boy's face lit up with curiosity. In the chat window, viewers placed their first bets. Remember your training, Observer Prime instructed. Remember what the stream showed you in the archives. The network hummed with anticipation. My consciousness bridge card burned with data, and somewhere in the stream's vast web, another family's tragedy prepared to feed its endless hunger. The boy turned the puzzle box in his hands. His sister walked past the kitchen doorway. His mother loaded the dishwasher. His father read the newspaper. The perfect family scene played out on my monitors while the chat filled with predictions. Observer Prime's message flashed red. Begin the sequence. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The consciousness bridge burned at the base of my skull. Images of Wendy, of my parents, flickered through my mind. Initial preparations complete. Observer 223 wrote, awaiting your command. The boy's fingers traced the patterns on the box. The same patterns David had solved in Wendy's kitchen. The same sequences Diana had decoded before my mother disappeared. Security systems primed appeared on my screen. One command would seal their exits. One keystroke would begin the cycle again. The chat scroll accelerated. Bets poured in from hundreds of viewers. Each one waited for my performance, for my transformation into a true broadcaster. Execute primary sequence, Observer Prime commanded. The boy found the first latch. His sister sat beside him, curious about the mysterious box. Their parents remained unaware, just as my family had been. Detective Moore's case files spread across my desk. The symbol carved into 3 families' doors stared back at me. Soon it would mark another house, claim another set of victims. Network synchronization complete, flashed across my screen. Broadcast controls active. The boy's fingers moved to the second latch. His sister leaned closer. The puzzle box pulsed with familiar energy. My phone lit up. Detective Moore's number. His message opened automatically. Found another connection. Call immediately. Proceed with broadcast, Observer Prime insisted. Complete your transformation. The consciousness bridge seared my thoughts. Protocols and procedures flooded my mind. Everything the stream demanded of its broadcasters pushed against my will. The boy reached the final sequence. His family gathered around the table, drawn to the box's mysterious presence. Just like Wendy had been, just like my parents. Observer Prime's message burned red. Execute the program. Become what the stream chose you to be. The security system waited for my command. The power grid controls glowed on my screen. Everything ready for another performance, another sacrifice to the stream's endless hunger. My cursor blinked over the execute button. The boy's hands moved across the puzzle box's surface. And somewhere in the stream's vast network, hundreds of viewers waited to see which path I would choose. Choice is an illusion. The stream taught me this through every broadcast, every death, every transformation. But sitting at my desk, watching another family gathered around another puzzle box, I understood something else. The stream had made one mistake. The boy's fingers moved across the final sequence. His family leaned closer. The chat erupted with predictions and bets. Execute the program, Observer Prime demanded. Red warnings flashed across my screen. My hands flew across the keyboard, not toward the execution commands, but deeper into the stream's network. The consciousness bridge burned in my skull as I pushed against its protocols. Security breach detected, flashed across my screen. The chat scroll froze. Observer 223's message cut through. What are you doing? The archive files opened on my second monitor. Every broadcast, every death, every transformation played simultaneously. The pattern revealed itself in fragments of code. Stream stability compromised, blinked in warning red. The network map flickered with instability. The boy's puzzle box sparked. The family jumped back from the table. On my screen, commands executed themselves, fighting against my intrusion. You can't break the cycle, Observer Prime wrote. The stream flows through us all. My fingers ached as they raced across keys. Each broadcaster's connection appeared in the code. Each viewer's transformation encoded in the network. The consciousness bridge seared into my brain. Images of Wendy, of my parents, of every victim flooded my vision. The stream pushed back against my resistance. Network integrity failing flashed across every screen. The chat filled with panic. Observer 167's message broke through. Stop this. You'll destroy everything we built. The puzzle box on the family's table cracked. Dark energy poured from its seams. The stream's safety protocols activated, but I'd already found the weakness. You can't undo what's done, Observer Prime typed. You're one of us now. The network map collapsed. Connections severed. The consciousness bridge burned out in a surge of power. Warning messages filled every window. Critical system failure. Network collapse imminent. The family ran from their kitchen. The puzzle box exploded in a shower of sparks. And in my apartment, surrounded by dying screens, I made my final broadcast. This is Observer 512, I typed. The stream ends here. The network crashed. Screens went dark across the world. But in the final moments, one message appeared. Broadcast signal detected. New stream initiating. Source: unknown.